there I was in this room near the end of February when we had our humorous speech contest. It was an awesome contest. It was a great contest, well organized, and I had the distinction of finishing third place. Now, third place sounds pretty good until you realize that there were only 3 people in the contest. Fellow Toastmasters and guests. I want to tell you a mistake that I made that day that allowed me to propel me to be able to, 3 weeks later, on March 7th, to win the humorous speech contest in the area, as well as the international speech contest in the area. How did I go from losing to winning both contests? The simple answer to that is you join 3 clubs. And you have another chance to do it. But the real answer, the answer that can be helpful to you, and it certainly was to me, is what I want to talk about today. 2 things that I researched that helped me be able to go from third place to winning both contests at the area. A little bit of history. I have not won an area speech contest in about 5 years. I've used old speeches and come to the contests and haven't really rehearsed them. The speech that I did this day in this room at the club contest, I didn't rehearse it. I had some notes, I came in and I did the speech. I didn't even know what time I was on, and so I quit the speech at 5 minutes. I had another story that was very hilarious, never even told it, all because I did not rehearse. Now, our 2 competitors did something that is the purpose of this speech today and the research. How did I get to win and go from being a loser? One of the things I did was picked up this book. I did a little research. This is called the Recovery Bible. And there is a quote in here that I discovered. It says, "Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you'll get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't have to compare yourself to anyone else." Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you'll get the satisfaction of a job well done and you won't have to compare yourself to anybody else. When I won both contests on March 7th over at Cargill, I was sitting in the audience waiting for them to announce the winners. And I did not care who won. I was sitting there with the satisfaction of knowing that I paid careful attention to my own work, and I wasn't worried about comparing myself to anybody else. It is true. And if you think about the days that you've given a speech that has been very well prepared and very well researched, you know that the voting is not so much of a satisfaction as it is if your internal realization that, hey, I paid careful attention to my own work. What did I do to pay careful attention to my own work? I basically rehearsed both of my speeches about 15 times on videotape. And I sat down and watched each one afterwards. I did this over a period of 2 weeks before the area contest. And I had a little card that had this quote on it from the Bible. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you'll have the satisfaction of a job well done and you won't have to compare yourself to others. I had it on a little card. Every single time I rehearsed, I read that card before and afterwards to drum it into my head, to motivate me to do this, something that I hadn't really done in 5 years. it was an exciting experience. I even went to prepare myself by going to the room, Cargill. I went to Cargill 3 times during the week before the contest, and I rehearsed the speech in the very room where I would be. The day before, I did something else. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to pay careful attention to my own work. So I went over there and I set up the whole room. I set it up so that the lectern would be here and I'd have just enough room to move around and that it would be perfect for everybody else. And I rehearsed again. And so I had the benefit of being able to be familiar with the room. In fact, I owned the room. I was the one who set it all up. All these little things, rehearsals, moving to get comfortable with the room, all these little things I'm paying careful attention to my own work, for then I don't have to worry about other people. I don't have to compare myself to anyone else. That's not a worry. I also used a second book, the first book being the Bible that I did research in. The second book is an old public speaking book, 1935. It's called Public Speaking as Our Listeners Like It. In this speech, I attempted to use a couple of the techniques in this book. And so that's what this project was all about, was to do some research, to recognize that we can all learn. Even though I've been teaching public speaking for 40 years, that's 40 years, the tendency to be able to sit on your laurels and not pay careful attention to your own work is easy for me to do. But I discovered, and I hope you do too, that you can be a better parent, a better husband, a better employee, a better boss, and live up to the best of who you are.
All right. Thank you, Rich. And like always, your speeches are very harmonious. And let's move on to our next speaker, which is Jose Canales, and he'll be evaluated today by Breiner.